you'd have a bunch of cash or money, and then you'd be dumping it into a leaky bucket. All right, now that we are done with the basics of the yam value chain or basic facts about yams, let's move on to the next phase, which is knowing the right resources to use or choosing the right resources. In fact, I can't stress on how important it is to find the very best of resource to go with. Else what would be happening is that you'd have a bunch of cash or money, and then you'd be dumping it into a leaky bucket. So essentially you are putting a lot of value in and you are reaping very small. In the previous video I mentioned that there are three main players: the farmers, the aggregators, and then the traders. All of them are very, very important in your operations or in the operations. Without the farmers, you won't find your yams, or the yam they won't grow the yams for you to even go for. Okay. Without the aggregators, you wouldn't know where the yams are located. So that's the importance of the aggregator, because yams are typically farmed in West Africa, and West Africa, or Ghana especially, has a smallholder culture. Okay, we do not typically have large farms at one place. You need aggregators, because they would be able to tell you that, oh, go this way, go that way, 5 miles from here, 10 miles from there. When you get there, meet Mr. X or Mr. Y, and the yams would be ready. If you don't get to the right aggregator, you are going to sweat profusely. I mean, it's some of the lessons we learned during our numerous years of playing in the yam value chain. And the last group of people are the traders. Because once you get into this, either as a side hustle or a professional, you would be dealing with traders at a point in time. Because what typically happens if you want to be like a professional exporter is that you would have a whole consignment of yams, say 15,000, 20,000 yams, and then you select the grade 1 or grade A yams for exports. But all the others that have that do not meet the grade A standard, that is, they look irregular, they are bigger than usual, there are marks on them and stuff like that, you will need to find a way to trade or sell them, and the traders come in. And if you don't find the right trader, yeah, you would face the music. That's when you start hearing excuses like, oh, the yams got rotten, all of it were rotten. Boss, sorry to tell you, the yams you brought were not good at all. They'll go bad. Or they say, oh, you bring the yams, I'll pay you in 2 weeks. And then 2 weeks comes, and then 2 weeks becomes 4 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, that type of thing. Never get the money. Some of the stuff we've experienced is like a rite of passage. You don't have to go through that because we've already gone through that. So yes, giving you a heads up now. So yeah, back to the topic of choosing the right resources. One of the important things under the resource is your storage. Okay, with yams, I think it has got enemies or nemesis. Chiefly amongst them, in fact, there are only two that I can think of now on top of my head: heat or excess heat, and then water. Okay, and it's ironic. I think the heat and the water in the right quantities make the yam grow in the soil, but when it's out of the soil, then it becomes a problem to it. Okay, when it gets too hot around the yams, what happens is that it increases the rate at which it gets spoiled or rotten. Okay, in fact, because of that, when yams are being exported, they are placed in temperature regulated containers, or we call them reefers. Okay, to keep a certain temperature so that they do not get spoiled in transit before it gets to the final destination. For water, water speeds up the rot of any organic stuff. So of course, once you are dealing with yams, you make sure that you are not placing it at a waterlogged area or it's not raining and getting logged in the yams, because they are arranged in a certain way. Okay, arranged in a certain way, and you do not want the water trickling from the top and then forming a little pool somewhere in the matrix that has been formed. Okay, anyway, so that's that for the storage. Make sure you have a cool, dry place that is airy and airy, so that there's good ventilation and all of that. The yams will stay longer. In fact, your yams can actually stay for 180 days, so 6 months, if I'm correct. Yeah, I'm correct. 6 months, your yams can actually stay. The people, the indigents or the local people in Ghana, in the north, they found ways to actually keep them, and they don't keep them in any fancy thing. They keep them in these structures, wooden structures, on the ground. Okay, then they make sure that the place is not too hot, and then it doesn't have water like passing through or getting logged in them and stuff like that. So the structure that is created from thatch or raffia. Okay, those things you see on those documentaries, African documentaries, we live in huts with something. That thing, yeah. That's what they keep the yams in. It creates a cooling effect, especially if it's placed under a tree, a big tree. So that's what they do in the north. But when you move them to the cities, you do not have the luxury of that thatch or raffia, or you do not have the same structural facilities like they do. Because everything in the capital or in the cities are like modern and all of that. So you need to be creative about it. Find a cool, dry place to keep it. Ideally not on the ground, not cemented or stuff like that, or tiled. Placed on a certain height so that water doesn't get stuck there. And yeah, it should be fine. The next thing is the packaging. Okay, packaging, also really important when it comes to yams. If you keep yams in plastic, you stand a chance of making it get hot or get rotten. But if you keep them in boxes, paper boxes, thick paper boxes, you should be fine. Your yams will stay for a very long time. And basically that's about that. You can get very creative about your packaging and think about all the ways people may want their yams, and that should give you an advantage over the rest of the guys or the rest of us in the yam value chain. And that's about that for this episode. And that's about that for this episode. Look out for, or watch out for the next one that's coming. Yeah, see you soon.